I appreciate you watching this video on YouTube, but your data was just sold to whomever's pre-roll ad you got for an average of like 11 cents. You're not worth 11 cents to me or your mom, and definitely you're worth more than 11 cents to yourself. You're worth so much more. This isn't a critique on self-worth. It's a critique on the fact that in 2026, though, we're living in the attention economy. Hi, I'm Nikki T, 25-year marketing industry veteran, spending the majority of that in the gaming, tech, and entertainment spaces doing digital and product marketing, brand development, and frankly using my marketing powers for the evils of capitalism. I've now mostly hung up my evil cape to be a content creator, as co-host of Love and Chick Space, and I stream games while answering your questions about the game industry and my crazy adventures. But I also am here to educate you on how marketing and game mechanics manipulate you into spending more money than you should, and how you can beat the man at his own game. What even is marketing? This question has a different answer depending on who you ask, but in its simplest form, marketing is getting someone to do something the company wants you to do. The someone is known as our target. That can be a whole audience or a generalization of a group of people, a segment, which is a subset of the audience, usually distinguished by the action we want them to take, or a persona, an amalgamation of data to create a single ideal target customer with names, made-up pets and hobbies and everything. The something is generally an action we want that someone to take. Most commonly, it's buy something. However, that action can include things like logging into a game every day, watching a live stream, typing a comment, signing up for an email list, or giving your phone number and approval for SMS messages. You know, subscribe to my channel and get 10% off my merch shop. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Now, the how we get you, my poor unsuspecting fool, to do the action I want, that's where art meets science. According to the American Marketing Association, and yes, that is a real thing, there are 17 different types or categories of marketing, and each has their own subset of tactics, analytics, legal regulations, and how they work. I would challenge there are actually more, but that's personal opinion and nuance, and we can save that for another time. Some of these you may think you know and recognize, like email marketing. You get sent an email asking you to do something. Or influencer marketing. Mr. Beast tries to tell you something he, quote, likes. Or video marketing. Using video to do something. P.S. I'm sure at this point you got a pre-roll ad and maybe a mid-roll if I'm monetized by now, and I'm so sorry. Or something like experiential marketing. Have you checked out that new One Piece Popeyes crossover with Megan Thee Stallion shout out? Ooh, influencer marketing crossover alert. While in other cases, you may have no idea there is actual active marketing happening to you. Like SEM or search engine marketing, which you might think is just the sponsored ads when you search for something. But there has always included SEO, which is search engine optimization, and now has expanded to include AEM, which is answer engine marketing, aka those AI summaries at the top of a search result, or when you ask an LLM like Claude or ChatGPT for information. This marketing is the manipulation of getting that AI to select specific information that marketer wants to appear in the algorithm. We may curse the almighty algorithm, and there are many to curse. P.S. Like or subscribe to fuck the algorithm. That's why we always say this, to manipulate said algorithm. And this is known as social media marketing, right here, right now. But the algorithm is neither benevolent nor true neutral. Honestly, it's chaotic evil, because marketers manipulate the inputs to garner a desired output. Brand marketing is a classic. It's a reason you have a logo on everything that fucking exists. In a study in 1991 that looked at if children aged 3 to 6 could not only recognize brand mascots, but what they represented, found that approximately 30% of 3-year-old children correctly matched Old Joe Camel with a picture of a cigarette, compared with 91.3% of 6-year-old children. In a study in 2009, it found that kids could recognize more fast food logos than healthier food ones. A US Department of the Interior study found that the average American kid can identify 1,000 corporate logos, but can't ID 10 plants and animals native to his or her area. Brand marketing is effective through consistency and repetition to build trust. The brands that you've seen since you were 3 years old are the brands you are most likely to buy when you have independent consumer power. But let's talk a personal favorite type of marketing that, frankly, I think is really evil but super awesome. And it's known as contextual or behavioral marketing. And this is why you're worth 11 cents, my friend. When you go online to watch a video, then comment on your friend's Insta post, then doom scroll TikTok, followed by logging into a game on your phone for 3 minutes to do your dailies, and then you decide to walk into a Target, but you first buy a Frappuccino with your Starbucks app before you check out the items you were carrying in your cart. As a marketer, I just got a ton of different data points like hobbies, emails, things you like or don't like, how much you potentially make or can spend in various types of revenue categories, where you like to shop, where you're geolocated, where your friends are geolocated, and a whole lot more. Because I can purchase all your data, and I can tell you right now, all the companies I just mentioned sell your obfuscated data not only to me, but to each other. Why do you think Starbucks made a deal with Target and not H&M? And then I can make what's called a lookalike audience and market to all those similar people that have similar buying habits like you. Not to break your little snowflake heart, but you're just one of many. And therefore, you're only worth 11 cents. And if I buy 1 million sets of you in your local area, I've only spent 110 grand. You're worth more than 11 cents. Let me explain how. We have this kind of old school phrase in marketing called buying eyeballs. That isn't like a weird ingredient in a witch's brew, though it kind of feels like that sometimes. It's how we, as top of funnel or branding based marketers, refer to you as a consumer. And notice I didn't say customer. Your eyeballs are worth something to me, and really, as long as radio has existed, and now that podcasts are making their way downtown, they're walking fast, faces pass, and they're homebound. And I need you, and I miss you. Podcasts are making their comebacks, now with video. Look, all media is circular. It all comes back around in one shape or form, one way or another. And marketing uses old techniques or adapts to make new ones to sell you something. Buying eyeballs means I'm buying your attention. Whether it's your eyes, your ears, your mouth, you get it. Back in the day, marketers were competing against related products running ads in similar TV or radio time slots, all to a captivated audience. Then we started running display ads on the internet. In video games, you were just waiting to see when the next big AAA came out. Oh crap, Call of Duty is launching November 18th. We have to move our launch. You, as a consumer, were thought of as an individual that could view and experience discrete types of marketing and synthesize this information to then make a decision based on your wallet and spending power. But as the evolution of second screening became more prominent as smartphones penetrated the market, followed by real-time social media interactions, it became clear Spending power didn't matter as much if we couldn't tell you where to spend, because you're too distracted by too many things to pay attention to the messaging. And this is where we shift to the attention economy changing marketing and content engagement. Attention as an economy, as a concept, has been around since the early 70s. The psychologist and economist Herbert A. Simon wrote about the scarcity of attention in an information-rich world. He spoke about how designers of information systems thought information scarcity was the issue when it was, in fact, attention. Your ability to filter said information. There's a thing known as a marketing funnel, or model. There are multiple versions of it with various names for stages depending on what you're trying to accomplish, but they ultimately move in the same way. Lots of people go in the top for a few people to do something at the bottom. The core of this comes from an advertising funnel created in 1898 by Elias St. Elmo Lewis that we still use today. It's called IDA, or Attention, Interest, Desire, Action. Now, to expand on this, there are multiple different models that have evolved, like the Dagmar marketing model, which stands for Defining Advertising Goals for Measured Advertising Results, has another evolution of IDA that came out in the 60s. It has 4 steps known as ACA, Awareness, Comprehension, Conviction, Action, and even more recently in 2011, Bangam Sukma Wijaya created a modification of this model called IDAS as Love, standing for Attention, Interest, Search, Desire, Action, Like, Dislike, Share, and Love, Hate. Look, it's getting ridiculous at this point. But the point is that ever since the late 1800s, we know how valuable attention is and how easy it is to manipulate people to give it to us for very little. So why are you only worth 11 cents? Okay, to be fair, your click is worth 11 cents. In advertising, different actions are charged in different ways. CPC is cost per click, CPM is cost per 1,000 impressions, CPV is cost per video, CPL is cost per lead. Look, you get it, cost per. As each of these actions is at a different part of the funnel, the closer you get to taking a desired action towards the bottom, the more expensive you become. Other things that play a role in this include geolocation, your age, gender, content channel, industry niche, ad placement, even the time of day. Right now, the average cost per lead on LinkedIn can be as high as $230 in North America, whereas a general lead on Google Ads is only $70. A pre-roll on YouTube for an automotive channel can be a CPM of $2.90, but the CPV is only 5 cents, and that gets even lower if the ad is skippable. On TikTok, average CPMs are upwards of $9, and your CPV is anywhere between 1 cent and 7 cents. Emails can be worth upwards of $400 per 1,000 viable emails, making your email worth a whopping 40 cents. Look, you can search and find any website, social media channel, city billboard, TV channel, anything, what they are charging advertisers, what they believe your value is. And here's what they're selling: your data, your privacy, your ability to be an independent media consumer, your attention. And while an economy is transactional, usually we, as consumers, have a say in the transaction and the value given and received. So how do we as consumers have more say and control in this attention economy? Nothing in capitalism is ever free. Net neutrality, universal access, and a free and open internet are all concepts that have been around since the interwebs' early days, and personally, I think should exist, but that's a whole nother video. Since a lot of these things are honestly not regulated, our access to information, entertainment, and our general way of life has become monetized. As I mentioned, an economy is transactional. Most companies, developers, websites, will say that for you to use our service and keep our lights on, our staff paid, we must make revenue. All hail capitalism. In the digital space, it's generally pay a hard money subscription fee or pay with your attention, usually through advertising. Or both if you think no one's noticing video subscription services like Hulu, Disney Plus, and Netflix. See lawsuit A. As all doom and gloomy I make this sound, you do have some control. You just have to decide for yourself how much your time and attention is worth. Some things are easier to change and opt into or out of thanks to some global regulation. Don't allow cookies or get rid of them nightly. Don't use Google or Bing as your search engine. Go with something like DuckDuckGo or Ecosia. Use an ad blocker. Don't exchange your email for a coupon or never sign up for a, quote, rewards or loyalty program. You could just pay the subscription fee. But sadly, it's not a simple one and done. Researchers at Texas A&M and University of Washington found that even after users opt out through cookie consent tools, their data may still be collected, processed, and shared by advertisers. Opting out statistically kind of looks the same as opting in. But according to eMarketer, tools that go deeper than cookie banners do make a difference. Brave browser surpassed 100 million monthly active users in October of 2025, with ad and tracker blocking enabled by default, representing a shift from extension-based blocking toward browser-level blocking, which is harder for platforms to detect and counter. Advertising Weekly warns us marketers that the combination of users choosing cookie-blocking browsers plus opting out on Chrome is leading to roughly 70% of the internet being effectively invisible to ad tech. So, publishers worldwide lost $54 billion in ad revenue due to ad blocking in just 2024. That's roughly 8% of total global ad spend. And when YouTube tried to fight back, traffic to YouTube ad blocker pages spiked 336% after enforcement actions, with only 11% of users saying they were less likely to use blockers as a result, and 22% saying the crackdown made them more likely to seek blocking solutions. When Apple started doing app tracking transparency, known as ATT, not the phone company, and gave iPhone users an easy opt-out from app tracking that I personally use all the time, 62% of users tapped Ask App Not to Track. And the users who did opt in became so valuable that the cost of reaching them increased significantly. Fun fact. As of Q2 2025, roughly 32.5% of Americans use ad blockers, and about 1.8 billion people globally use them at least sometimes. And some users are, of course, more savvy than others. I know this to be exceptionally true for my own adventures in gaming advertising. Gaming platforms report up to a 48% ad blocker usage rate, the highest of any content category tracked, which, if you're watching this right now, totally kind of makes sense. And I'm proud of you. Or maybe you're just cool being worth 11 cents, staying in closed ecosystems and participating as is. And you know what? That's fine. That's how today's attention economy is built. Advertising, marketing, and the need to get you to participate in this is never going away. I mean, come on, let's believe the first written ad was done in 3000 BC in Thebes on a papyrus scroll. We've always had something to sell each other, and we always will. It's your decision as a consumer about how you want to approach engaging in the attention economy and support small creators or even the big ones that you use every day. Just be an informed consumer. Your mom and I still think you're worth more than 11 cents. Just FYI.